name is Chad Granger. I was born in Medford, Oregon. Currently living in Grants Pass, Oregon. I'm 30 years old. I own a mobile RV business called Granger Mobile RV.
My name's Austin Hauser. I am 26 years old. I've lived in Grants Pass for about 15 years now, and I work with individuals with special needs and have done that for 3 years now. We know each other through car meets and stuff. We got to know each other through just hanging out at car meets and becoming friends that way. I grew up in a smaller town named Happy Camp, which is a very small town, and all it is just small woods, or big woods out there in a small town. So everything was woodsy out there.
I spend a lot of time outdoors. I take myself 3, 4, or 5 miles out in the woods with a single man tent and a sidearm and stuff like that, and I'm pretty well comfortable.
I've done the same, not so much hunting, but just going out and spending a weekend out in the woods and stuff, and going out and camped and whatnot, and never really been an issue for me not to go out and be like, oh, I can't really do this, but I'll go out there and do it quite often. Other than just going out and camping and stuff is go out and we'll try and find neat little areas that you can sit out and just kind of overlook some of the area and the nature that we have out there, as well as going out there and trying to use my survival techniques and try and live as minimal as possible without using, some of the modern things that we have.
One thing I love most about the outdoors is the freedom and the escape from, the big city and the harsh environment of the big city. I spend a lot of times out there. I also spend a lot of times on peaks and valleys of the mountains looking over the landscape, and I'm really big on nature, and I like to explore, stuff that hadn't been explored by very many people, like old mining caves and stuff like that, and stumble across rock quarries that I have left over, possibly gold or quartz or just something like that. I'm real big into nature that way. So yeah, I've heard several claims. A lot of people out of a place called Prospect, which is on the way up to Crater Lake. Growing up as a kid, my mom was in a long relationship with a logger, and he camped in a lot of places out there where a lot of other timber fallers had said, oh man, we've ran into this thing out here, we can't explain it, and so it's Bigfoot is a very big, powerful word where I'm from, because a lot of people suspect they've seen it or have seen it, so it's becoming a staple where we're from.
For me, the word, not only the word, but the town that I come from, the word and meaningful behind Bigfoot is the mascot of Happy Camp. There's actually a big giant statue made out of metal in Happy Camp of just Bigfoot. My grandma used to make stories up all the time, and she would say that Bigfoot was going to be coming through the windows, or was under the bed when I was a little kid, just trying to scare me. So it was always a scareful mindset for me for Bigfoot. I've always believed in Bigfoot. It was always something that I was, told about when I was a kid. It was always a lore, but I always believed that there was something else out there. So coming into this mind state, it was kind of something in the back of my head, but I didn't think anything that, it was going to be so up close and personal for me. It took me by surprise for sure.
I have always had a hunch on Bigfoot. When I was a kid, I remember being down at Applegate Lake when it had gotten so low from the hot summer, and it was coming into wintertime, and a friend of mine and I were down there trying to fish in the small stream, and we'd stumbled across some big footprints, and we kind of were like, wow, this is weird, but it put that in the back of my mind. But I've always had a hunch, with my experience, it kind of locked it in. It's kind of one of those things that's like, you think something's out there, but you're never going to see it, but then you actually get the chance to see something, so it becomes reality. My mom's boyfriend had a friend up there that had physically seen Bigfoot fall in timber and actually walked off the job and never returned to finish his job, left his saw, jugs of gas, water, everything up there. Another logger had to go up there and retrieve his items for him because he was too scared to go back up in the woods after that. And I don't know where the gentleman is nowadays, but he had told that story for years, and I've heard it off of numerous loggers and numerous people in the valley from that same man that lived up in Prospect. I grew up in Applegate a lot. My young childhood, I spent a few years out there. And it's a lake that me and my friends in the local area would go up, and we'd go fishing and camping, and we were sitting around a TV one day and watching that Bear Grylls guy, we kind of like, what, we can do this. Like, let's go do this. So we decided to go up there with just the bare minimals. It was his idea, and we went up there and built a little lean-to and made this makeshift camp. We had our cameras. We hiked up the trail, and we got up to our little spot, and we were trying to save some film on our cameras, to get like a later shot. And we were gonna go catch some fish out of the lake and just make some dinner. And I was tying up my hook, and Austin goes, "Hey, what is that?" And my first reaction was like, "Oh man, it's a couple of bears. Like this, we're gonna be in trouble if it's a a cub and a sow." And more we started looking, I was noticing, I was like, these things were like on this log out in the water, and they were like doing things with their hands. I can't tell you exactly what they're doing, but they're doing things with their hands. And we moved to try to like go get our cameras or anything we could, or just we were freaked out at the point. And they noticed us, and they stood up, and they kind of like backed off the logs on their hind legs. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I don't think a bear can walk backwards on a log on its hind legs. And they moved to the tree line, and so we stared at each other. It was this paralyzing like moment in time where I was like, I don't know what I'm staring at. This is insane. And before I knew it, they just vanished right through the thicket, and it was just like that.
They stared at us for what seemed to be forever. I mean, it was almost like time stood still. They were looking at both of us, and while we were looking at both of them, there was so much intensity in the air that you almost felt them communicating to you that way.
It was like very spiritual. It was very like I don't know, like telepathic in a way, to where like we just understood each other, like we're both in the wrong place at the wrong time, kind of like. And then as the sun fell, we were super freaked out. I remember telling Austin, like, man, I just have this gut-wrenching feeling that we need to get out of here. Like, this doesn't feel right. Like,
I was over there, I was like, no, it'll be okay. We can, we'll be able to do this. We can finish it out and see how tonight goes. And that's, I don't know, it had to have been maybe 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes before the sound started coming through.
Yeah, we started getting, I thought it was like a bird, like an owl, something hooting, but it was too guttural for an owl. And we started hearing a lot of sounds, and these sounds were coming by our camp so fast that there's no possible way that it could be any type of animal that I've ever experienced in life. I mean, we'd hear crashing over here, we'd hear hoots back behind us. It was like we were surrounded by like a family of things, of creatures, of Bigfoots, and so we tried to stay as long as we could. We were going to say, hey, you know what? Like, nothing can hurt us. We're fine. And we just got so paralyzed in fear in the middle of the night that we just left everything and took off. And it just felt like we were getting pushed out by some sort of field of energy. It's just, I can't explain it. It's like static in the air. My hair would stand up on my arms, and it was just, yeah, it was an experience. And it's been pretty heavy on my conscience since it's happened. It's definitely something that I knew existed, but something I never thought we'd encounter. It was nice blue skies. Everything was just like it would normally be.
It was a really nice day.
Really nice day. Yeah, actually, we took off up the trail. It's about a 2.5 mile hike. Nothing extreme. And we got up there, and like I said, we set up camp. Everything was pretty normal. Up until everything was actually pretty normal. When he first said, "Hey man, what are those?" I was like, "Oh, it's bears. We better be careful." And then once we made this eye contact, everything changed. The environment, my thoughts, my feelings, everything just went like a compass over Bermuda. Just out of whack. And I'm like, everything just fell out of tune. I'm like, okay. It was almost like the wind stopped moving for a second, and there was a vibration in the air.
It was just dead still in the air, and then just feels like there was almost like that heavy feeling of someone being right there with you at that moment, kind of like that presence of somebody right behind you. And so, but up until that point, everything was really nice. Everything was going smoothly. We didn't have any real issues. The weather was really good for being the time of the year it was. It wasn't too bad. It was decent.
Yeah, we were going out in the woods for a YouTube channel we were going to start to do demonstration videos on how to survive in the wild with minimal tools, minimal hunting gear, just the bare essentials.
To be able to give people that insight of how to do it, you know, if they do get lost out there,
Yeah.
what they can do to be able to survive until they get rescued.
Show them what they could eat off the ground. Show them what they could survive on if worst case scenario. That was our intentions behind this whole trip. I was personally inspired by Bear Grylls. He's just a legend in my opinion. So that was my biggest motivation. Austin's the survivalist guy that came up with the whole concept, and we decided to go out there and just see what we can do for 24 hours on our own with nothing.
Yeah. My military background that I have, I had some training in the field out there. And on top of that, when I was a kid growing up, we watched a lot of Survivor Man, which is based off of, it was before Bear Grylls. So there was a lot of things that was shown in there as well. But the military also helped, and being with my dad a lot in the woods was also helpful. And so
we decided to put our cameras down because we want to save battery for our dinner. We were going to cook some wild fish and some foliage we'd found on the ground that's edible for like seasonings and spices and such. And when we actually saw the Bigfoots, we were sitting down on the edge of the lake.
They were almost, I don't know, how far away do you think that was?
It's a couple football field.
Yeah, I would say probably 200, maybe 300 yards away from where we were on the opposite side.
Just at that time of day where the sun's starting to sink over the hills and your eyes are trying to adjust, and especially being in the mountains, it gets darker a lot faster, you know, versus being out in town. You know, you got more daylight out there. But yeah, it took me a good while to realize what we're actually looking at, and then once I came to realize, I was it was just absolutely amazing, but also very paralyzing.
It was so powerful. The presence that they gave us was so powerfully moving that you almost didn't want to move because you didn't know how it was going to react for them, and you know, you wanted to preserve that moment there.
Yeah, it was actually so paralyzing that we whispered to each other.
Yeah.
We were like, what do we want to do? You know, like, because I was scared that it would hear us and it'd be a bad situation.
I mean, mind you, they're 200-300 yards away, and we're still over here like whispering to make sure that, you know, not even the mouse 300 feet away from us is hearing anything.
Yeah, it was paralyzing. Is it traumatizing? No, I'm just thankful that I actually am one of them people that actually got to see it and can say that, hey, this thing is out there. It absolutely 100% exists. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I'm just happy that I had a friend with me that shared the same experience, because when I don't have someone to talk to about my experience, at least I can talk to him about it, because we lived the same moment together. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. I'm very grateful, but I'm very concerned. You know, I haven't been back to Miller Lake since this has happened. The way it happened was Austin he had said, hey man, what is this across the lake? And when I looked, I said, it's a bear and its cub. And then I soon realized that it wasn't a bear and a cub, because bears don't walk on their back legs backwards. And the way this Bigfoot had pulled its young behind it, almost like to shelter it from us because it didn't know what we were, I was like, that's it. I told him, I said, this is a Bigfoot. You could throw me off a 30-story building and I wouldn't have the same feeling that I had that day.
I would never be able to share and explain the feeling that we had, or at least that I had coming into that scenario. Sure.
Trying to tell the story and put it in perspective for someone to understand is really hard to do. It's just something that I wish everyone that wanted to see Bigfoot or was curious could see it for themselves.
That's why I think opening up our story that we've had would be able to express that, you know, what people may think that's not something that's real might be able to be like, okay, I can actually ease my mind a little bit and be like, that what I saw was real. Mm-hmm. Despite that scenario, we did decide to try and camp more on my, that was my feeling. I was like, no, we can definitely make this out. Chad over here was more so on the lenient side of maybe not, but I really wanted to push and try and, you know, get this going, because we still had some battery life on our cameras to be able to shoot some more.
Yeah, I was dead in the water at that point. I was like, you know what, this can wait. You know, I just had a very eerily feeling, you know, like I said, the atmosphere changed around me like instant. Like it just felt like I went through a vortex, you know, and I don't know how it was for Austin. We've talked about it so much, and our stories are different every time we talk about it, because we had so many emotions running through us at the time that we can't just pinpoint one emotion. And for me, I was like, dude, we can stay, but if it gets worse or weirder, we're out. And it did. It got something didn't want us there, and it wasn't just one thing. It was everywhere around us. It was like being in a circle with bulls running around you, or
like if you could imagine being in like Africa and they're doing their their medicine dance, and you're just stuck right in the center. You are that fire in the middle, and they're just dancing around you, making all this noise, trying to bring out whatever you've got. It was like that, and so terrifying because of what sounded to be, one over here, and then it just continued to count like there was multiple just around us, and with us being, just two guys, didn't seem like we were
no
gonna
guns. We had a pocket knife.
So it was a definitely a scary situation.
Yeah, it's the first time I've been in the woods without a firearm, and it's the last time I'll go out in the woods without a firearm. We generally always take some, but we were trying to be so authentic for this video that it kind of. I think we got more than we bargained for.
More screwed the pooch on it.
Yeah. It was it was all for fun, and it still was fun, and I don't regret it by any means, because this is an opportunity that people everywhere around the world go out and camp for months on end trying to find this thing. And I just happen to think that because we didn't have any equipment out and we were just going about our business, that we had the opportunity to see it because we weren't hunting it. We were just there, in its environment, and we happened to cross paths, and we were very fortunate to see it. But it's paralyzing. I mean, I'm not scared by any means, but I don't go camping in the same way I used to.
It almost was in the feeling that they wanted us to see it.
Yeah, almost.
I think that if we did have the equipment, the cameras, anything like that,
we wouldn't have seen it.
Not at all.
I think if we would have had our cameras rolling, we wouldn't have seen it.
They would have never allowed us to.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if it could have been a child Bigfoot or a wife Bigfoot or whatever, but they were light brown, and the characteristics of this creature, the way it pulled its little one, its young, behind it with its arm,
in a protective fashion was just, it was crazy.
My first thing I thought was like, this thing's protecting something, and it's not. It was. I mean, I can't even put it in words. It was so unreal to see something like that, and then to see it stand there, and we kind of look at each other. We're doing this, and we're staring. I'm trying to see it. It probably sees me perfect, but I'm like trying to look for every detail to put this thing together of what this is, and then it just turned and they walked. I mean, gone. I was like, wow, what just happened? And you're in that shell shock of like, it's just my eyes, or it was this, it was that, it was anything but Bigfoot, it was anything but a mysterious creature.
There was no way, if and or buts, that was not a Bigfoot. There's nothing out there that I have experienced out in the wilderness that can move and have the parental effects that they had towards its own,
protecting its young like a human, like I would pull my daughter behind me in a bad situation. That's exactly what it did. And at that point, that's when I was like, okay, this isn't a bear, this isn't a cougar, this isn't a wolf.
I would say that this was more ape human like. There definitely wasn't so bear stature or anything like that. It definitely had broad shoulders. Definitely had a normal human-sized torso.
Yeah, the torso was very wide, though.
Yeah, it was wide, but it was
guitar-shaped.
It wasn't like a bear or anything where the legs were super short and the torso was super long. But it definitely had a wider, like pear-shaped torso.
I just wish I could have seen it for longer and more clarity, like more clearly, because, I just can't. I just wish I could go back in time and try to stare at it longer or something, because it is very animal-like, but at the same time, its actions, the movements, the legs. I mean, it had very long legs, very tall.
Yeah,
moved through tree branches like they weren't even there. Like.
I mean, they had to have been at least 7.5, 8 foot tall, at least.
The one did. Oh, dude, I'm telling you guys, even the air even smelled like a wet dog. You know, like how a dog smells. The air even smelled very like if you just hugged your dog out of the tub and smelt it or something, like that wet, like I can't say wet dog, it's a little worse than that.
Yeah, it was like that real musky wet.
Yeah, but it wasn't like a rancid stench. It was just
No.
like, ooh, man, damn, take a shower, buddy, or something. You know what I mean? Like one of them things. But it filled the air, and it stayed like that for a good while.
I would have to say that the smell came in after we had moved back into the tent area.
Yeah, it's like, so when I say like everything stopped, I mean like the wind stopped blowing, right? Like it was just like everything just kind of buttoned up, and I don't know if it's because I was in shock, but it seems like when the Bigfoots took back off through the woods, I didn't say anything to him because it wasn't just I just noticed, I was like, whew, man, what the heck, you know? And we only talked about it after the fact, and he noticed it too. He's like, yeah, I noticed that too, but we didn't say anything because we were more worried about the actual thing.
Back to safety.
Yeah, so, but yeah, it was just this odor came around, and it stuck around for probably 35 minutes, I would say. It just kind of lingered. Well, we actually got out of the woods under our cell phone lights. Our flashlight, we lost I lost my flashlight. We had this little lantern that we forgot to get batteries for, and so we used what we could of it to get back out of the woods. And we instead of going back along the lake, because the trail comes out toward the middle of the lake, and I was like, I don't really want to go that way, you know, like let's just cut down through here and we'll catch the trail. Well, it didn't necessarily work out as well as we'd planned because the trail kind of does this. So we just popped out on the road in a random spot, and I'm like, okay, we got to go this way. And so we ended up making our way back down to the trailhead. But yeah, it was an interesting way out. Being that scared and hearing the whole way down the mountain was like, you could hear stuff crashing behind us, branches breaking. It wasn't like, I don't want to make it sound like it was like this mayhem, but every few minutes you'd hear like a thump, thump, thump.
It was
You know,
almost
like
like if we had stopped for just a moment, they would make sounds to keep us going. Like, hey, like you're in our area, like keep going. Get on out of here. Well, we're not going to harm you, but hey, we're right behind you to make sure you make it out of here.
It was exactly like that. We had no time to stop. It felt like we were being pushed out of there.
Yeah.
It was very, 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 just like I said, I've spent a lot of time in the woods, and I've never experienced that before. I mean, I've been like looking over my shoulder for, you know, wild animals, and, you know, been kind of spooked out in some dark woods before with just a flashlight. But this was like, if he wanted to have been there, I can honestly say that I probably would have like been so paralyzed in fear that I just would have curled up in a ball and not been able to move. It was freaky. I was thinking of other things outside of Bigfoot, like Hollywood movie, like this is Blair Witch, you know, like all this creepy stuff was going. I couldn't help it. So it was.
Yeah. It was definitely.
We were grateful.
moving.
My wife, I called my wife, and she said, "I told you guys I ain't coming to get you. If you're gonna do this, you're gonna do it." You know.
I thought she was going to leave us out there.
Yeah, I thought she was gonna. And she said, and then she told Austin, she goes, "If he wanted to call me back the second time, because usually when I go to do stuff like this, I don't ever call her, and it's just to tell my kids goodnight or something." And she goes, the fact that he called me back the second time, and the way he sounded, like I was like, you gotta come get, you know, I'm like trembling, like now. And she's like, what? And so she dropped the kids off with her mom and shot out to get us. And she don't believe in Bigfoot. She don't really know if I'm telling the truth, you know, because it's just, she's naive in that sense. But something in my voice that night brought her out. So she says, I've never seen you like that before. So yeah, it was it was intense. We couldn't get our gear in the car fast enough. We couldn't get what we had on us in the car fast. I mean, I was like running down the hallway flicking light switches off to get out of a creepy house. Yeah. I mean, he was in the car. I slammed the trunk. I almost jumped through the trunk, just crawled over the seats because I thought something was going to get me before I get in the car. That's how, and I'm 30 years old. You know what I mean? So that goes to tell you whatever was out there was definitely
pushing us down the way.
Yeah, it had me freaked out. So I decided to have my wife drop me off out there because she's stubborn. And I knew that if I called her for a ride, she said, look, I'll take you guys out there, but I'm not coming to get you. So if you're going to do this, you better be committed. And so that's why she was like, I'm not coming to get you when I called so late at night. And when we called her, I believe she probably made it out there. It was around 2:30 in the morning. And me and Austin were just sitting, damn near cuddling each other, man. We were sitting out there. And, yeah, she showed up a couple hours after I called her, and like I said, we got in and took off.
It was almost like everything had stopped around us. After we had made it to the roadway, it was almost that everything had stopped around us and everything was just so quiet that it felt like they were in the tree lines, just peering at us and like,
Exactly,
all right,
man.
we'll make sure that you guys are safe here, but you guys need to get out of here.
Yeah, it was like he said. Yeah, this was funny. Exactly how it was. Like all the noises stopped. Like we'd hear like a noise off in the distance, like maybe they're going away.
Yeah.
But when we were on the street at the little rock area, sitting there waiting for my wife, it was like we were just. I feel like if I looked at the tree line in night vision, I'd see Bigfoots lined up. Man, it was like we were being watched from every direction.
And even being out there with how late it was, with how cold it was almost like you didn't feel the cold because you were so paralyzed by this Bigfoot coming and expressing how you were in their area, and telling you, hey, you need to get out of here. And so sitting there feeling almost like we're safe in this area, but at the same time like, hey, we need to leave because this isn't our area.
I wanted out. I didn't feel comfortable at all. I sat there paralyzed. I was more scared away from our camp in the road than I was staying at camp. I mean, I was like, get here. Like I was literally like, you need to get here now, Brittany. I was like mad that she took so long to get there. Like she didn't take me serious. And she's like, well, let's get out and look for it. I'm like, go, get us out of here now. Like I was that worked up. And she's like, okay, let's just go,
It was a little different for me when we were sitting at the roadway. Like I said, it was almost like that calm feeling, but at the same time, it was that feeling of like, hey, you need to get out of here though. But being on the roadway, I was able to have more of a view of my surroundings, so I could see what was, if something was going to be coming from around us, where, we needed to be. So I had that aspect of, my awareness of what's around, my bearings.
Well, and the creek runs through there, so there's a lot of noise from the creek, so that was more settling. I think if it would have been as quiet as it was up at the lake, it would have been worse. But either way I look at it, I was an uncomfortable person that night until my wife got there. I just wanted to get home, and I lost a few days of sleep on it. I got on the internet immediately the next day, and I started looking up anything I could look up about Bigfoot, anything paranormal in the woods, any type of mythical creature in the woods, and going back into the beginning of this, where what brought me into believing in Bigfoot was that footprint, and that kind of always hung on to me. And I was like, there's got to be something out there. There's no way that someone's barefoot can make that big of a footprint in mud. Like I get it, you step in mud and it gets bigger, but this was big. And so I was putting everything together, like, man, what I saw at the lake, maybe I'm destined to see this thing, maybe I was meant to see this. I was so back and forth, I couldn't dig up enough on a computer. And then I just talked to him back and forth, like, man, I almost going crazy on research because I want to know what I saw, like even though I knew it was a Bigfoot, I just wanted to prove it to myself again, like I wanted to go back out there and say, if you're out here, come out here and show me again. It's just me. I have no camera gear, nothing. Like, don't make me feel crazy, because at some point I was like, am I going to break to that point of like losing it, or am I going to stay sane, So I came to just being able to talk with him about our story and stuff, and it just kind of put me in this in-between spot where now it's like, okay, there's nothing to worry about. There's definitely something out there. I seen it, and I'm cool with it now. I can live with it now. But there for a while, I was just digging up any type of information I could, listening to all people's stories online, people from Canada, people from Bend, Oregon, people from all over the world talking about Bigfoot, all the way down into Texas. They call them swamp creatures, and it's like, I'm not the only one, so it was reassuring. I wanted to talk to people about it so badly, but I just buried it inside because people don't want to hear it, people don't, when you say stuff like that, they're like, oh, you're one of them guys, like you're one of them guys that just, so I bottled it up. I'd talk to Austin about it, and it wasn't like we talked about it every time I seen him. We'd just watch something on TV that he'd be like, hey, remember, and I'm like, yeah, I ain't forgot, so it stuck with me for, it still sticks with me. But I really obsessed on it for like 30 days, 30 or few months almost. I was like looking for answers, you know what I mean? And finally I just, with my kids, I just got distracted in life and my wife and stuff. It just kind of slipped away, and I kind of just, anytime we'd go out for a trip in the mountains or down fishing by the river, it would pop right back up in my mind. I would look down the river or something like this, and I'd just like see a flashback of, almost like picturing something standing down there, and yeah, it can be traumatizing to a weak-minded person. It really could. Someone that's very blind to, the reality of stuff like this. It could really put somebody in a bad state of mind if they were to experience what I experienced, it can be very traumatizing.
You never forget about it. It's something that it'll never leave you. You will always have that with you. You will always remember that moment. There's nothing that can take that and, get it out of your head, but you can move past it. The line of work that I do a lot of exercises to bring people back to a baseline so they can calm down and stuff. And so deep breathing and counting and stuff, when I get into those moments where I'm feeling myself getting really heavy in this situation, I really start to freak out about it, and I just start to take some deep breaths, and I'd start counting, and until I'd start to feel myself release a little bit and start to relax a little bit. And it still happens from now to now, but it probably happened for a good solid, I'd say for me, a good solid 3 weeks where it was almost consistently where I was finding myself having to, sit down, take breaks, and be like, I'll get past this situation. But me and, like Chad said, me and him talk to each other when we get into those moments, it,
Yeah, 11, 12 o'clock at night,
it don't matter what
ring
time it
the
is.
phone,
Yeah. We talk to each other, and we help each other through those times, make sure that, we're not going insane over here, because it almost made you feel like you were going to go insane.
Yeah, my obsession was the insane factor for me was just obsessing about wanting answers,
Exactly.
Like I wasn't so traumatized on what I saw for a few days. Like I was like have weird dreams, like of seeing Bigfoot. Like I had a weird dream one time where like I was like reaching and we were like about to touch hands, and he was like, the Bigfoot in my dream was like being like sucked through like a vortex to where I couldn't touch him, and then boom, I'd wake up, and I'm like, that was a weird dream, man. And then it'd weigh on the back of my mind for a while, and I'd go to sleep, and eventually I'd bury it again, and then, like I said, something would pop up. Hey, you want to go up camping? Yeah, sure. And get everything packed up, and I'm driving. I'm like, here we go, you know what I mean? Like
I said, it never leaves you.
Yeah,
it'll be part of you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, any little thing for me particular, I can't speak on Austin's behalf, but just anything that people mention about woods or anything that has to do with outdoors in anything. I drive by an outdoor store, Sportsman's. I'm like, oh, there's Sportsman's. Oh yeah, I saw Bigfoot, back in October. You know what I mean? It's there and it won't go away. But yeah, it's something I'll live with for the rest of life, and I'm grateful because I'm one of those people. When this creature finally gets discovered,
you'll know.
I'm gonna be like, hey, I saw him first. You know what I mean? Like I'm one of those guys that saw him when no one believed.
Yeah.
That's me. Like I'm not crazy. You know what I mean? But the more I think about it, and the more sightings and the more stuff I hear and see, it's becoming more of a blessing every day because it opened my mind's eye to like the reality of like there's things out here that's buried by our government and by people that they don't want us to know about, and yeah, I absolutely consider this a blessing. It's not the blessing I'd ask for, but I'm just one of those people that happen to be gifted with something like this. Yeah. Absolutely.
Very much so of a gifted aspect of it because, I mean, who else can
who else can sit there and say that we saw Bigfoot? Two people, two buddies had actually seen something. We can look dead in the eye and say, man, like we're not crazy. We saw this, man. It's really, yeah. At first, I never looked at it that way. I looked at it like, man, am I going crazy? And like I said, I dug for information for a very long time, and then the more I realized and the more I'd seen stuff popping up here and there, and I started watching TV shows and obsessing on it, that I was like, this is really cool. This is a gift because there's people all over the world, probably right now as I'm speaking, out here trying to find Bigfoot. Yeah. And I'm giving an interview because I seen him, So that, to me, yeah, that's a gift. That's special.
Well, not only that, but the aspect of, how special did we have to be for them to be able to show themselves to us because, so many people go out there looking for them and we weren't even looking. And yet, they're like, hey, you guys are chosen for this. Yeah. You guys get to see this. And
I think a lot of the reason that we had gotten lucky in this scenario is the fact that the lake that we go to is not a very populated area. Yeah. It's not like, people do go there, but not as many as you would think. It's pretty desolate out there and pretty quiet and remote. So I don't know if it wanted us to see him, or if we just both didn't notice at first, and we kind of noticed each other as we moved. But there's definitely an energy with a Bigfoot. There's definitely an environmental change when you spot a Bigfoot. There's definitely like a static, like it's I don't know, like if it's look like
it's like a aura.
Yeah, I don't know how
A
it's
presence,
so
like an aura presence, like yeah, it's
I
so
don't know
hard.
if you could reach your hand through them or if you could touch them. You know what I mean? It's like it's so hard to put in words, man. That the environmental change. It was like being under a pressurized cabin or something. You know what I mean? Everything just kind of stopped, and there we were.
Yeah.
And it's like yeah, it's just really hard to put in words. It's unbelievable to put in words. You'd have to experience it to believe it. And I'm absolutely so grateful nowadays that I can sit here and talk about it to you guys and not look crazy.
I would say my sighting, I can't talk for him, but at least my sighting definitely changed me. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now, has it changed my beliefs? No, because I've believed there's Bigfoot out there.
It's never changed my beliefs on the aspect of a Bigfoot, but it's changed my beliefs religiously. You know, like I grew up, you know, God, Satan, you know, that, and it's like to see something like that people talk about and to experience and see it, it definitely changes my belief on my religion, because none of this is in the Bible, you know, none of that I've ever experienced. They don't talk about Bigfoot, but you see it on hieroglyphics and caves from centuries ago. It just changed the way I looked at biblical scripture. You know, it changed the way I think about our government. It changed the way I think about conspiracy. You know, it definitely affected me in ways that I never seen before. You know, it kind of implemented things inside my mind of like, you know, what else is out there? You know, what's in the oceans? You know, there's so much uncharted forest in this universe that it's really hard to determine what's out there. There could be other things out there we don't even know about. I mean, I just read something the other day that these guys had defrosted some worms from 41,000 years ago, and they came back to life, you know, so.
Who knows what else is out there?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely opened me up to a whole different chapter of the way I see things, for sure.
My background on religion is somewhat the same. I was raised in a Protestant, and so it was, you know, there was Jesus and God, and there was hell, and you know, the human species and stuff. But I don't remember really reading too much depth into the Bible, so I didn't really think that there would be anything talking about it. If I would think about it nowadays, I would probably say that the Bible doesn't really talk much about what's out there that hasn't been discovered. But it also doesn't, you know, say that it's not there. So I wouldn't say yes or no to it not being, you know, talked about religiously, but it definitely is something that's not talked about through everybody and through religion. I don't know what other religions would be out there for that, but
yeah, I like I said, if it is in the Bible, it wasn't taught to me through my pastor. Same. It wasn't something we talked about in church. You know, we talked about
it just talked about, you know, Jesus and
talked about a lot of stuff that had to do with scriptures, and
but never nothing
about creatures in the woods.
No.
And if there is something like that in the Bible, I mean, then it's being kept from us.
Well, on top of that, you know, they always talk about, like, you know, purgatory and stuff, and there's, you know, what other things are out there. You know, not only is there Bigfoot out there, but, you know, is there monsters
There's got to be
out
other
there?
Things. There's other things out there because, like I said, hieroglyphics on stuff from thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
There's pictures of stuff like what I've witnessed, you know, from decades ago. So, yeah, back to the question of did it alter the way I see things? Absolutely, because it's opened up my mind in so many different ways that
it definitely changed me as well in that same aspect. You know, you go into these settings thinking, you know, you're going to be the only person out there. You might encounter some animals, you know, you might encounter some, you know, a bear or two, but you're never going to think that you're going to encounter Bigfoot. But you come out there.
That wasn't even on my mind. Like, I was thinking about what we're going to make for dinner for our viewers. You know what I mean? Let alone we get ran out of the mountains by a mythical Bigfoot. Man, that's
you come out there and you have that closed-mindedness to you, and you just
There's nothing
you,
out here.
you
What could
yeah.
happen? You know,
And then you come out there
we just
and
need knives and a fishing pole.
you experience that, and it just makes you think differently to where, what else is there?
And
What
I
else
just think
can we
things. I
experience?
think things like this are planted in people like us because, the world's. It's like, the world needs to know about stuff like this, and I feel like things like this of different nature that have this kind of ability, they want it to be seen by people like us that can share it through a grapevine of other people and open this up to the world, to other people that are skeptic or other people that just have no disbelief. I just wish so badly that I could take somebody that don't believe my story right back to the day it happened and put them right there.
Not only that, but the people that have seen Bigfoot and are so scared to talk about it and have experienced the situations that you went through and the things that I went through, to make them aware that it's okay.
Yeah.
There's
Don't
other people that have seen him.
Don't feel crazy. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Don't, because
Your marbles are still intact.
yeah, yeah. Don't feel crazy because I've done my
He's real.
research and he's real, and from what I've experienced, he's 100% real, absolutely real. I probably wouldn't even say anything. If someone was standing in front of me and they said I don't believe in Bigfoot, I probably wouldn't even talk about it, just because I could go on for hours and hours and hours about what I saw, and it's not going to change the mind of a skeptic. Now, skeptics on different scenarios other than Bigfoot, you might be able to change their perception on stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't think you can convince a Bigfoot non-believer that they exist.
The only way is to be able to show them.
Yeah, the only way I would even get in a debate with a skeptic on a scenario like this is if I had physical proof and I could take them and show them what I saw. That would actually be like one of my biggest dreams right now, is to take the whole universe on one camera that don't believe in it and
Be like, here you
this
go.
is live, there he is, but I can't. All I got's my story, and people can take it how they want. And for the other people out there that have experienced Bigfoot, they know where I'm coming from. They understand.
No, if somebody said they were skeptic, but they asked about the story, I would be a little lighthearted to tell the story, but I would still...
If I did, I would tiptoe around the detail.
That's for sure.
I wouldn't want to get in too deep with them.
If they want to sit there and trying to debate on it, my thing would be, all right, man, you don't believe it, that's fine.
Yeah.
I know what I saw.
If I'd give them, I would probably give them just a little idea, and if they wanted more, I'd give
snippet.
them more. But I don't.
Little trailer.
Yeah, I don't have any desire to get into it with someone that don't believe in Bigfoot. I would love to share my story with a room full of believers.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. But a room full of skeptics.
Yeah.
You can't. It's like trying to penetrate concrete with a pencil. It's not going to happen.
Physical proof is the only way that you can really, change someone's mind. If they're already so set that, no, this isn't real.
I've just met skeptics. I've met, I've seen Bigfoot. Yeah, get out of here with that shit.
But
stuff. Sorry, guys.
But trying to, change someone's mind that they're like, no, it's not real, but you don't have any proof of it. You can't be like, hey, look. Without any of that, it's almost impossible to change someone's mind. So
at least I think. I mean, you probably do it, but I don't know if I want to take the time to try to do that, So
for those that, possibly have seen Bigfoot or, are just too afraid to express that, don't be at all. It's totally okay. There's people out there that are, afraid of it too, but just know that there are people out there that have seen him and that are, willing to talk to you about your stories, as long as you're willing to listen and be, open-minded about it.
The one thing I would tell everybody is don't go looking for it, man.
Yeah.
Go out in nature and don't look for it, because it's the things you don't look for that pop up. I always know when I'm looking for something, I don't really ever find it, So
it's horrible me trying to find my keys that I lost. I'm never gonna.
I mean,
find
hell,
them.
I could go out elk hunting and look for them all day long and not see them. I get on my truck and drive down the road and see a whole herd. It's just, you just got to put yourself in the environment of a Bigfoot and don't hunt it, don't threaten it. Just
live its life.
Just do you, and if you're lucky enough or unlucky enough in some circumstances to see one, I'd love to hear that story.
Yeah.